we love to do because we like to have diverse perspectives in our community. And tonight we're going to talk about Cardi B, Snoop Dogg, Offset, a lot of hip hop stuff. But the conversation is not really about Cardi B. It's not really about Snoop Dogg. It's not really about Offset. It's really about us. It's really about us as Black people and what it means to have the culture that we want to have, and what I call the rise of the thought culture. And so Cardi B, with her being selected as Woman of the Year by Billboard, and then Snoop Dogg made some controversial comments about Cardi B and WAP culture and all that. We're going to let everybody kind of jump in on this. So I want to introduce the panelists really quickly. First, we have Tia Brown, who is a licensed therapist out of New York. How you doing today, Tia?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Doing well. And we also have Jeff Lightsey Jr. From the Black Boss Channel. What's going on, Jeff?
How's it going, everybody?
Going good. We got John F. Thomas. John F. Thomas is an award-winning writer and director out of Hollywood. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How's everybody?
Doing great. We also have Ro Guanghinois. I keep practicing every time I come to the panels, and I'm going to keep practicing her name until I get it right. How you doing today, Ro?
I'm fine. Hopefully you're all well.
All right. Yes, we are. Thank you. And also we have Dr. Maurice Green. Dr. Maurice Green is criminology, right? Is criminology your field, brother?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. He's a fresh PhD. I think got the doctorate a couple years ago, and he also runs the Black Doctoral Network, which is actually arguably, I think, the largest, most powerful organization of Black doctorates in the entire country. So my boy's killing that. I have a lot of respect for you. All right, so let's hop in here. We got some smart Black people in the room, and we're gonna jump in and we're just gonna talk about what we need to talk about. Let's start with Snoop Dogg. So recently Snoop Dogg made some comments about Cardi B that really set off Offset. Offset, her husband, and I'm gonna read what Snoop Dogg said about Cardi, and then I'm gonna kind of try to channel the conversation so we don't get into ratchetness and gossip as much as we get into growth and understanding. And so one of the things that Snoop had to say basically was that the music, that this WAP music, and I'm gonna try to find his specific quote, but that his WAP music is or that this sort of culture is just not good for hip hop. He made the argument that the WAP, which we all know what WAP stands for, that it's basically something sacred, and that you shouldn't be sort of throwing it all out there just in the beginning without people kind of learning about this. So while I dig up the quote, I'm actually dig up the actual quote. I should have done this before. Did anybody see what Snoop said? Did anybody? How many of you raise your hand if you saw what Snoop said? Okay,
I reviewed it. Okay,
all right. So I'm gonna start with Tia Brown, and as I pull up the quote, go ahead and give me your take on Snoop's remarks, particularly as it relates to Cardi and WAP and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I look at Snoop as a 49-year-old man, and while there's a lot of judgment behind what he said, the fact is that at 49 you think differently than you thought at 28. And I think that's key because, his opinions about her at 28 would not be the opinions that he had when he was 28. And they also don't reflect his choices at that age. And so Cardi B's 28, Meg is around 25. So they're making music that speaks to what they find to be engaging or entertaining at this phase in their life. So, people are hypercritical about his comments for a couple of reasons. Number one, because they are hypocritical given what he was doing at that time. And number two, it's not the place of men to tell women what to do with their content, with their bodies, with their images. And, so it feels wrong and it feels judgmental. But if we look at it from the perspective of now he is a growner man, so he's going to have opinions that are impacted by his phase of life. It's understandable that he would say these things. Now, does he lack insight in not saying like, hey, you know what? This is a song about fun. I think one of the challenging things about entertainment is specifically because, as people of color, we don't have a lot of diversified images that are put on pedestals. A lot of times we treat entertainment as if it is the standard for life. This is a song about entertaining. It happens to be about lubricated vaginas, and they enjoy what that brings to their lifestyle, but it's still entertainment. And they have the right to talk about that, And one of the things I'd like to, share with folks, in addition to being a therapist. For a very long time, I was an entertainment journalist. I've since transitioned to doing more lifestyle journalism work. But, also there's marketing behind this. There is, there's content ideation about, what messaging am I trying to put out for 2020, because given what's going on, given how I want my image to evolve. So, do I think he's being harsh in one sense? Yes. But do I think in terms of one of his identities, an older Black male, is he giving criticism that I think some people will have at that life phase? Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let me read Snoop's comment, and so that way we can hear him all the way out. As well, one bias I have is, it drives me crazy when media, and this happened to me a few times, when the media wants to bash a Black man, because we all know that Black men are terrible people and full of toxic masculinity.
Absolutely, all of them, right? Every one of them. Put that label.
Right. Exactly. So what they'll do is they won't actually put your quote into context. They won't ask you. I went through that when I said the thing about promoting obesity and promoting unhealthy lifestyles, and then wondering why Black people die of COVID back when the Lizzo thing happened. I remember that media talked heavily about me, but never once did they actually ask me to explain what I was saying. Many of them didn't even include the actual quotes of what I'd said. They or the full context. Like, it's almost like it became a hit piece, right? And it's fine. I mean, that's what white people do, but we're not going to do that here. So I'm going to read some of what Snoop said, and then I'm going to go to you, Jeff, to see what context you might have on this. He said, let's have some, privacy, some intimacy. I'm gonna try to do my Snoop Dogg imitation.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Please spare us all.
Some privacy, some intimacy, where he wants to find out as opposed to you telling him. This is what he said to Central Lab host Julissa Bermudez. He said, to me, it's like too fashionable. When that in secrecy, that should be a woman's. That's like your pride and possession. That's your jewel of the Nile. That's what you should hold on to. That should be a possession that no one gets to know about until they know about it. Right. So it sounds like what Snoop might be saying to me. It sounds like he's actually maybe saying, look, do what you want, but you're precious, you're valuable. And what I'm seeing as a man is you're saying that that's cheap. You're laying it out there for the whole world to see. I don't know. Jeff, please, what are your thoughts?
My thing is, it's not always the message. In some points, it's the messenger. Right. The fact that Snoop is in the entertainment business, not just the entertainment business, the music business. And we know what Snoop has said in his music from years past. We have 25 plus years of Snoop Dogg lyrics to go back and refer to. So it's like, Snoop, you're talking about Meg or Cardi or whoever, but didn't you say X, Y, and Z? Didn't you show up to the award show with 2 women on leashes? Like, didn't you do all these things? Like, aren't you the one that, all these exotic lyrics about women, and now you're telling these women not to speak about the same things you were speaking about? Like, that's where it becomes hypocritical, right? And not to say that Snoop, like Ms. Brown said earlier, that he hasn't developed these, like, become more, just really his mindset has changed over the last 25 years. But you still have that track record, right? Like when you were 25 or 28 or however old you were when you first started making music, you said a lot of these same things just from a male perspective. So what a lot of women and what a lot of people are going to take issue with is the fact that you did this exact same thing in the same industry, right? Like, you did this. It's not like, it'd be different if you were a relationship coach or ex, or, you had this spotless record. But you are Snoop Dogg. Like, we know what you did. So that's what I think. And then you add also what Ms. Brown said as well, the fact that it's a man telling women what to do, right? So whenever that takes place, especially when it comes to women's bodies, you're going to get a certain level of backlash because men in a lot of, especially in our community, they feel like we are the big bad Black man, right? And you're telling these women what they can and can't rap about. But I think I don't think that the message is really what's like the crazy thing, or not as much, but it's the fact that it's the messenger that it is Snoop Dogg.
Okay, so I'm gonna also show you. We saw the picture of Snoop with the women on the leashes, and then we also saw that Cardi B was named Billboard Woman of the Year. And so before I go to Ro, I will say this. I'll tell on myself and say that that I'm a little bit. I think Snoop was the wrong messenger for that message entirely. It doesn't even make any sense. It sounds almost crazy that you had women on a leash a few years ago, and you were most famous. Your most famous lyric, like 50 Cent's killer lyric was, I got shot 9 times. Like he made $100 million just by repeating that lyric. Snoop's famous lyric was, "We don't love them hoes," right? Y'all remember that? We don't love them hoes, right? And here's the thing, right? So I think Snoop is clearly the wrong messenger, but then there's something to be said about this, right? I remember like my father has told me about his struggle with drugs. He came back from Vietnam. He had a heroin thing going on, and my whole life, my father always pushed me to stay away from drugs. Don't mess with it. Don't touch it. Blah 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 blah. And it wouldn't have necessarily made sense for me to say, well, you did drugs, so I should be able to do what you did, right? Maybe the fact that he's telling me to do better than him is the reason I should listen to him. Maybe it's because he tried the drugs that he's the best teacher that there is, because he can tell me the flaws of this. So what do you think about that? Okay, I know Tia's clapping, she's jumping out. Ro and then Maurice. Ro.
Well, first I want to say that men don't love them hoes. Men don't love hoes. That's actually a true thing. That's for real. The other thing is, men absolutely do have the right to correct women. Where are we going with this? Yes, Black men should be concerned about what Black culture listens to, what Black children follow, and correction of how we operate in thought ways, as Dr. Boyce says, is appropriate. Okay. Mm. The other thing is, we are in a culture of women who cannot stand correction. We have single mother galore running around as if they cannot accept correction because correction feels like an attack on them. But then they physically attack their toddler child and call that correction. This is out of control. The other thing is that this is not entertainment. I totally disagree. This is not entertainment. This is demoralization. And like I said before, America is stuck in a demoralization process because it was implemented on purpose 40 years ago. It was a 40-year program to remove the morals from America. So we're going to blame Cardi B? It doesn't make any sense. Are we going to blame Snoop? It doesn't make any sense. These are just products of what was put out there to remove our morals. And then people think it's cute. It's not entertainment. It's demoralization.
Okay. So it's not entertainment, it's demoralization. Maurice?
So I have a question for our sister Brown. And I've heard this said before, that I think Offset said this. He said, men should stay out of women's business. And so the only question I have, right, in reference to that statement or that positionality, like, does that also mean that if men are rapping about their private parts and what they do with women and what women should do to them, if a woman critiques that and says that's inappropriate, right? It's unacceptable, it's derogatory, it's misogynistic, can men turn around and say to women that women should stay out of men's business?
So the issue here is that we're not comparing apples to apples. What consistently happens, first of all, we have two popular female rappers right now, right? Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion. There are a bunch of others who are doing well, but these are the two on the forefront. If you look at the charts, there are countless young Black men who are rappers. There's very little critique about them, specifically from the OGs. So that's what I find problematic. And I don't disagree with anyone else in terms of should we be mindful of the quality and the content of all of the things that are consumed by America when it comes to the characterization of Black people. Yes, but it's problematic if we only go after the women. If it's specifically when they're on top.
Wait a minute, but we are women. And if there's one, that's too many for me, personally speaking.
If there's one what?
One thought.
So people have the right. So we're dealing with a couple of different things. People do create imagery based on how
people do not.
There's some puppetry going on in terms of images that we see. However, you do have the right to say that this is what I want to rap about. So I think we have to be very mindful about policing the content that Black women put out, specifically when we don't police Black men in the same way.
So let me just say this real quick. Wait, let me just say this real quick.
It's 2020.
Hold on. We'll get your point out, and then Maurice, go ahead.
Just because it's 2020 instead of 1940 does not mean that people have the right to remove the morals of our children. If they want the right, literally, they can do it in the privacy of their own home. Literally. I mean, think about it for a moment. Do you have to be in public affecting everyone's children? Do you have to do it?
But you also have the right to decide what your children are exposed to continuously. You have the ability to have conversations with your children about what's going on. You have the decision on what you're going to patronize. So I'm not saying that there aren't issues about what's available. What I'm saying is, I don't have children.
You don't know what that's incorrect, actually.
I know. So I understand what you're saying in terms. I understand what you're saying about the prevalence of the content. What I'm saying is that does not mean that we get to shun people and say that they don't have the right to put out certain content.
Yes, it does. It means we get to shun them. That's what it does.
That's our choice. We get to shun them individually. So I agree with that. But I don't think that we can say in totality, you don't have the right to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, we can.
That's my opinion.
I don't think my question was answered.
Okay. Let Dr. Green hop in. Go ahead, Dr.
I don't think my question was answered. I think we danced around my question, and it was pretty specific. What I'm asking is, when you say that men cannot critique work by women because it's women's business, right? Does that mean that when men put out trash, hoes and this, that, and the third, and women critique that, can men say y'all shouldn't be in men's business? That's because that's the leading question, so I can understand. Okay. So is a man rapping about hoes and tramps and put your mouth on this? Is that men's business?
So, is that question still directed towards me, Maurice? Dr. Maurice?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what I said in terms of policing, and I use that word intentionally, is because there's an imposed authority that comes when a man gives commentary over certain things regarding women. And we do not have that same platform in the reverse, number one. In addition, we don't see the men doing the same thing when men create that kind of content. So that's why I was saying it's not necessarily apples to apples.
Okay, I disagree emphatically.
Okay.
There is a constant pushback on, talking about from the 90s, gangster rap, the lyrics that Black male rappers. I have not had a year pass that I know of where they haven't talked about the misogyny of lyrics, the violence of lyrics.
Well, who is talking about it?
And these are I'm talking about from what is it? What was it? After Police to DMX.
What I'm talking about specifically is who is speaking about it. So when you look at Snoop Dogg, who is an OG in the industry, so there is a perceived and actual authority when you have when he gives his opinion about something like this, which is why we're talking about it. We didn't see that same type. I agree. So if you listen to my whole statement and received all of it, that's what I said. I understand that he's speaking from a different identity at this point in his life, an older Black male perspective, which has different values. But what my point is regarding what you're saying about men versus women was that same critique, if Snoop was also saying the same thing about the 25 Black men who were talking about still the negative things regarding women and them being hoes and treating them poorly and having baby mamas, I think it will come across differently. But what we see is that consistent targeting of the women. And so that was my point there.
So like a double standard. Okay, I got that. That makes sense. So John F. Thomas, we haven't heard from you. By the way, everybody, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Tonight's all Black intellectual chocolate panel, which we do these on most nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you should check in on Dr. Boy's TV at 8 p.m. Eastern. We are talking about Cardi B, Snoop Dogg, WAP culture, thought culture, everything else. And more importantly, how it affects our community how it affects our little girls in particular, and our little boys and how they view girls and things like that. So I want to make sure we elevate that conversation, right? So we're not just gossiping about what some rapper said. I think it's also about us saying, our point of view is just as valid, if not more so, because we actually care about what happens to the community. So John F. Thomas, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. Go ahead, brother. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Oh man, I've been listening to this good debate. I almost forgot I was in the panel. But
sorry.
No, y'all good. I love it. I just wanted to say that in regards to what Snoop said, Snoop is right, but he's also hypocritical. So on one hand, marketing WAP out to women and to young girls can lead to a devaluation of how they are viewed to the world, no matter how much they'd rather it not to be so. How you hold yourself with dignity and class will inform the world on how they will treat you, regardless of how you want them to feel about you. But also, it's hypocritical because his career, just like Jeff was saying, was built off of devaluing women. Yeah, he went to an award show with women on dog leashes. And so this is you have to also acknowledge that when you are speaking about it, which, I mean, maybe they didn't have enough time, or maybe there's more to this video than we saw, but it's, now, and it's crazy. So you have them on dog leashes, but now you want them to respect themselves. You didn't respect them then, but you want them to respect themselves now. So I just think that, he did say now that he's older, he didn't mention that. Now that I'm older, he said, I want them to at least have a little, and with age comes wisdom, mostly. Not for everybody, but for most people. He did it when I was younger. If I was like 20, 21, I probably would have been on the remix. So,
well, I can see that, right? I can see that, right? I think that, as a person who, who I heard all the music, hip hop's my favorite genre. And I saw when the music started turning in a certain direction, and all of us have to kind of face the effects of this music. Now, here's the thing, though. Black people as a collective, I don't think were ever really down with hip hop turning left the way that it did anyway. A lot of us that remember what music was like, even in the 80s and early 90s, Tribe Called Quest, KRS-One, Public Enemy, X-Clan, just these artists that really use hip hop to make Black people better. You're like, well, what the hell happened? Like, and I'm, this is a conspiracy theorist in me. To me, it's just awfully ironic that it turned left around the same time that 1994 crime bill came out, and they needed people to fill up those penitentiaries that Joe Biden was paying for. And I know a lot of people say that's crazy or whatever, but it's such an interesting coincidence because now you're mass marketing criminal behavior amongst young Black men, making them proud to go shoot somebody, kill somebody, rape somebody. And guess what? They fill up the prisons, right? Because now it's cool to be a thug. It's cool to be a gangster. It ain't cool to be, a square. And I was the square. I was the one in school trying to do the right thing. And I'm looked at like something's wrong with me because I don't want to go break the law. Like, I got to break the law to get a date with you. I got to shoot somebody to make you think I'm a real man. What's wrong with you? So I think that ultimately, and remember, this goes back to white supremacy, though, right? Artists don't have creative expression. They have corporate speech. The corporation tells them what to say. We know who runs those corporations. But here's the point, and I'm going to go back to you, Tia, because I feel like Tia should have a chance to really make sure that point of view is laid out, because I know it's a little bit different from some of you on the panel. So Tia, here's what I see. I see this thing where hip hop goes left. The white supremacists running these companies are encouraging these Black men to say things that a lot of us knew even back then were unacceptable. So the women are watching this. They go from early 90s when Queen Latifah has a song where she's saying, "Who you calling a bitch?" You might remember that? You and I, right? To the end of the decade, where the women are calling themselves bitches, right? And then you add on another 10, 15 years of that, then you suddenly have the women saying, "We're going to do what the men did." They learned about right. So the women are doing what they learned from watching what hip hop did to them as they were children, and the men are now saying, "No, you shouldn't do that." It's very confusing. It seems. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Tina?
No, I think you made the most important point at the end, and not to say that everything you said wasn't significant, but a lot of the young rappers are responding to not only what they saw in pop culture, but also their personal experiences in the household. I think one of the big differences in hip hop now versus what happened when hip hop went pop is that a lot more of this is independently funded, right? So Cardi B got her rise by funding it herself from money that she made doing what?
Selling WAP.
Stripping.
Right. So we have to also make that connection that people are going based on what they see as valuable, the experiences that they've had, what is getting a response from the media now, which is highly social media, right? Which is funding them independently, and life phase. So it's not just a one formula thing. Now, do I think that this is highly impacted by the hand that the broader culture, white culture, has had on where they wanted to see hip hop go and what service they wanted it to provide? Yes, but I also think, Boyce, to your point, it has to do a lot with what was happening in individual communities, especially when people are not appropriating content, right? So if a person is singing about their experience, well, what shaped your experience? What happened to you? And I think specifically with someone like Cardi, we see that as being evident. And we have to think about, why is this the messaging, the only messaging that's elevated? Why isn't there a diversity in the types of content of women that are successful, specifically in the rap game? So if you look at most of the female rappers who do well, and again, not necessarily just on charts, but with touring, it is one kind of image. And these are women that are talking about one thing, which is sex. And it's the same. And even with male rappers, they're talking about, hustling, even if they haven't hustled. About money that they don't have, shootouts, violence, because I got shot 9 times was the narrative that changed one person's career. So we've lost a lot of the authenticity that is what made rap very popular and a big part of our culture. When rap first started, you talk about how it was positive, but it was also diverse in its types of storytelling and the types of images and the individuality that made you a quote unquote successful rapper. When rap went pop, the powers that be decided that it was going to be used as a tool to keep Black people talking about a certain thing. So that's now why we see a lot of the big rap content focused on one or two specific themes.
So I want to ask Jeff. Let me go to Jeff Licey Jr. real quick. Okay. Jeff, as a 24-year-old, 24, right? Or 25? 25. As a 25-year-old, would you, if you met a young lady and she said that she sells WAP, sold a little bit of WAP, or she's into the Cardi B WAP culture, would that be the woman that you want to bring home to your mama?
Not at all. Okay. And just to go off Miss Tia's point, just like she said, the fact that this is mass marketed. One of the biggest reasons why Cardi and Meg and these ladies say that they're so successful, or say that they rap about the content that they rap about, is because it is so successful. Even in the thing, like if you listen to Offset in his interview, he said that song 6 times platinum in 3 months. That song, that'll be a diamond record. Like WAP will be a diamond record, which means it will have sold 10 million copies, and it will be a diamond record within 2 years, right? So the fact that it will be that successful when there's only been a hand, we can probably count on 2 hands how many hip hop records are diamond. That is why they will continue down that trend. Now, whether and that is what's disgusting, because we know that is mass marketed to our people, that is mass marketed to our children, that is mass marketed to our daughters, and it's for a reason. It's not by accident, because think about it. Think about a white woman who at one point talked about some WAP or something. It was Miley Cyrus. And remember when Miley Cyrus was all into the hip hop lane and she did the hip hop song? Look at the way she was perceived and how they shut that down. Like as soon as she got started messing with rappers and all that stuff, they bashed her and they shut that down. And then a few years later, Miley came out and said, "I don't know what I was going through during that phase." That's not by accident. Like she came out and admitted, like, "Yo, I was messed up. I was in a bad spot," and that is what's marketed to us every single day. Now,
her bad spot.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is also something to think about.
Well, I think
well, I wouldn't say they shut it down. Because her managers were trying to control her, and they were just like, "Ain't nothing we can do." And her dad was trying to. They were like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think?" And he was just like, "Yeah, hey, she grown." So what happened? She was getting a lot of Rihanna songs that they wanted to give to Rihanna, but they gave to Miley because I guess Rihanna didn't want it. But once she got popular, because she was trying to push so negatively away from the image, because she
right,
was
and that's what people forget. That part of this is number one, like it's a different category for white artists versus artists of color. But also, if you notice someone like Miley, who's committed to being a pop star, every album looks completely different. You're trying different things to keep your audience engaged. And some of it is also some of the things that you're being influenced by in your lifestyle, which means that, you know, at a young age, you're partying, you're exposed to drugs, you're exposed to alcohol, you know, you have more money. So there's so many different variables that go in that. But big picture, Jeff, I do agree with you that we don't have a diversity in image for women of color at the top of the pop charts. In addition to that, the things that we are told are valuable are very simplistic and not always something that really pretends to overall value. But the thing I want to challenge you on is, what are you at 25 experiencing a bunch of women who are telling you that they want to sell WAP? I think the challenge is what we're seeing an image in terms of what we think is sexy and valuable. I think it's the bags, you know, the casual attitude about relationships and getting your feelings hurt. Those are the underlying issues that we are not addressing. It's not going to be as overt as, oh, I'm trying to do WAP. It's women who think they're living vicariously through connecting to this art because of what's portrayed. You know, so I just think we need to be mindful of all of those different factors. It's not, again, it's not exactly like, oh, now everybody is trying to be that.
So what do you think? I mean, Jeff, you know, and John, I think, I know, John, you're 33, Jeff, you're 25. Do you think that there is an influence on the behaviors of the women that you meet? You're both single. When you meet women, do you feel that there's something culturally that comes from the influence of what's going on in the music? In terms of maybe a materialism or a shallowness, or maybe you could also talk about, and maybe, and Ro, I'd like to get your thoughts on that too, is that I remember a time where a woman's WAP, if you want to call it that. I feel stupid even saying it that way.
Thank you.
But right, that was valuable. That you didn't call it a WAP. That was derogatory. Just in saying that, right? That having access to intimacy from a woman was a valuable, cherished kind of thing that you had to work for. So you can imagine my shock at the stage, you know, that I'm in my life. I'm not 25 anymore, but it's like, whoa. It's like going to Bloomingdale's and suddenly everything costs the same as it costs in Walmart, you know, and you're like, holy shit, like, is that all I got to do is give you a couple of dollars and I have access to your whole Jewel of the Nile? You know, like that's what I personally think, if that's all, if you don't care, then I don't care. But if you're telling me that you're trying to be like Ro and get, you know, like Ro's wife school students and actually find a quality husband, I don't know a lot of guys who are going to sign up for that. Nobody's going to give up this much to receive something that's been perceived to have this much value. I don't know no rational person. What are your thoughts on that? Anybody?
Well, I want to say that it has been so clear to me that our young girls, believe that they can do these things publicly, post them, and that they can turn around later and say, hey, just like Miley Cyrus, I want to put my life together and get married and be taken seriously. It doesn't work like that for our girls. And we literally cannot go around behaving like the people in these videos, these two women, and expect to be married to men. Cardi's husband is a male. He's not older yet. And it's not fair to try to say that men have done this for decades and that women should be able to do the same thing. Literally, we need to remember that there are differences between women and men that will never blend, no matter what the media says. We're not the same gender. Males cannot get pregnant. Our girls can get pregnant and ruin their lives. They would be the ones who could have ruin their entire lives because of this belief system. But also, males under 35 are not men. They're not. When men become 35, every single man who has ever reached his manhood looks back and says, I was not a man until after age 35.
That That you know what
That's kind of true.
Yeah, I would have been a terrible spouse before the age of 35. Yeah, and actually biologically, men. What happens that I read? I'm not an expert on this at all, but I read this in a book somewhere, so maybe that makes it true. But I read that at 35 years old, a man's testosterone starts to drop. And the testosterone, I think, is what makes a lot of young men do crazy stuff. So when you get 35, your testosterone drops by 1% per year. And I noticed that after 35, it sucked on one hand because I couldn't play basketball as much and I was getting fatter. But on the other hand, though, on the other side of that, though, you become much more balanced, more measured. Your ability to think strategically, to be patient, to control your emotions is
males under 35 should not get married. Nobody should look at them to be an example like that and a protector like that. So to sit around here and say that Snoop in his 20s should be in the same position and hold the same accountability as an adult female in the prime of her procreation years is just completely biologically naive.
Well, let me show you all a picture real quick. I'm gonna do a little quiz. I'm gonna put this a picture of a beautiful black woman on the screen, and can anybody tell me who this beautiful black woman is? Anybody in the audience? Take a guess on who this beautiful black woman is. Anybody? Any other?
Give us a clue.
Okay, remember Hannah Montana?
Okay,
that was Miley Cyrus's character on Disney. She played Hannah Montana.
Okay, yes.
So this person, her name is similar to Hannah Montana.
Oh, I don't know.
And her life kind of has a similarity.
So she did this is a person who did a big flip in their life. Were they an entertainer?
Sort of.
Oh Lord.
Let me give you another image that'll bring it back to you. And I'll give you another clue. Her first name is Montana, and this image should give it all away.
Oh, that's Lawrence Fishburne's daughter.
Montana Fishburne.
Yes,
Montana
I remember when
Fishburne.
she put out a sex tape trying to essentially become famous, and this kind of stuff is. I hear what Rose's saying in terms of the challenges we have of women of color. This was during a time period in pop culture where a lot of people were releasing sex tapes. She had an estranged relationship from her father, and she was not only seeking attention, she was trying to seek fame and do a Kim Kardashian kind of flip, and it backfired on her. And it only created not only shame for her family, but it further traumatized her and impacted her self-esteem, and she never really bounced back in the manner that she wanted.
And it goes to that point Ro was making that it seems to me, and maybe and it's nobody's fault, that a black woman can't do that Hannah Montana flip the way Miley Cyrus. Like Miley Cyrus can come back and say, "Oh, I was in a bad stage in my life," and whatever. It doesn't seem like black women can do that. Or Kim Kardashian can start off with a sex tape and then go mainstream. Montana Fishburne tried to do that, and now she's a porn star. That's what she is.
Kudos to black men for wanting wholesome lives and not trying to think that a porn star should be telling bedtime stories to their toddlers.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, everybody who's watching, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Tonight's all black intellectual chocolate panel. We're talking about, we started talking about Snoop Dogg and Cardi B and Snoop Dogg's criticism of Cardi B's WAP, and Offset, Cardi B's husband, came back and had something to say about that. And I'm going to read Offset's remarks, and I'd like to get the panelists' response on this in an intelligent context, in the sense of, I'm going to tell you what he's saying, then I'm going to read specifically what he said. But basically, it sounds to me like he was saying that men don't have a right really to tell women what to do, that women should just, women should be able to just move forward uninterfered. You should celebrate Cardi's success because she made a bunch of money and her album sold a bunch of copies. And so that's what he said. But let me read it to you. He says, we should uplift our women and don't say what they can or can't do. You know how long women have been told they can't do something, or they shouldn't do this, or they've been blackballed out of entertainment. So I stay out of female stuff. It's entertainment. You can go on YouTube to see people shoot videos with guns and talk about killing. We can't really be like judgmental on certain things, and certain things we don't. Now, not to say that Offset is anybody's scholar, right? He's just a famous guy, but just to that argument of saying that we have no right to say anything, and this should be celebrated. that I should uplift you by agreeing with everything you do and thinking that everything you do is okay. What do you think? I see Jeff shaking his head. Roll then, Jeff.
Who wants a husband so willing to let you do whatever you want to do because he's not going to protect you anyway? That's the trade-off. The trade-off is Cardi B doesn't have a protective husband. That's the trade-off. Because, she can do whatever she wants to do. You're doing whatever you want to do means you have no protector.
I kind of tend towards that, almost agreeing with Ro, because the fact that, not to say that, I don't know what relationship Cardi and Offset have, right? But I do know, like, I'm just gonna take what we do know. We know that she filed for divorce, and then were rumors, or part of it was that Offset was upset by WAP. Right, like that. Like if you go and type in your Googles, one of the main reasons and you add the fact that we know that Offset has cheated on Cardi B multiple times, like that is known, and that is part of and she came out and said that, and part of the reason why she filed for divorce. So the fact that yes, you married Cardi, and yes, y'all together, but psychologically, it almost sounds like he doesn't want to be in that type of lifestyle. It might go to your point about being 35, and I don't think Offset's 35 yet. So it might go into the part that he's rich and famous and on tour and travels the world and stuff and be around all these women. Not to say that's an excuse, but that might also go into it. But I think it also goes into it that his woman, his wife, is out making songs like WAP. And no matter how much you try to agree with it, I know as a man, if you have a woman that is like that, that is always going to bother you. Like it's always going to really like bother. There's no way you can go to sleep at night and say and know that your woman uses, not to say, and it makes her great money. She's very successful because
and I think that is the challenge, right? Because we're talking about the entertainment industry, and then we're talking about someone's personal life, and then we're also talking about what that means for larger culture. And there are different factors in all of those. Like we know, like you said, that they have a very tumultuous personal relationship. We also know, based on the lifestyle that they showcase, that they also have a lifestyle that values the monetization of their content. Yes. Right? So how does that impact the type of content that they put out? We also know, because they've had recent squabbles, that what I may support and how I may stand by you may look different right now because I'm trying to get in good. And what I'm referring to is that they almost just had a divorce. So now how do we present as a united front to be strong and to feel supported? That may not be in full alignment with how he feels personally, but more important, how the average man who's not in entertainment, who's not trying to make millions, would feel about his woman day to day exercising this type of lifestyle and these types of values. So there are different factors that all go into when we kind of look through this.
Yeah, I can tell you. I mean, there's a there's a value I think that most men have for a beautiful woman who lives the Cardi B lifestyle. Like, I think men can appreciate that. I mean, that's what strip clubs are for, right? You don't go to strip clubs looking for a wife. You go to strip clubs because you're looking for something that is different. How about that? Different. And I think that that's the problem, is when people get confused and they think that you can take the bathroom and turn that into the kitchen. The bathroom cannot be converted into the kitchen and vice versa. You don't eat in the bathroom, right? And so ultimately, I think that understanding that aspect is important for young women, because I think that young women can be misled when they're hearing about WAP, 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 WAP at the age of 7, and think that attracting men means that you need to sexualize yourself, or that all attention is good attention. I think that's
that you will not be valued. So you need to take other things besides love and security from people in order to have an exchange in your relationship. And I really think, that's the underlying messaging of WAP. It's like, give me money, give me this for this wet, blah, 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 blah. Right. And so I think it's important to kind of to dissect it in that sense, because most people aren't going to be able to live the lifestyle that entertainers live. But it's really like looking past it in terms of what they're saying and what that means to how you think you relate to people.
Yeah, well, it's funny when Jeff was saying that he'd be offended if his woman was doing the Cardi B thing. I would say this, and I guess every person is different, but I wouldn't. I've as in my life, as I've met different kinds of women in different categories, it's like you're not offended if a woman is doing certain things. You just know that there's the woman that's yours and that you keep close to you, that you provide for and you protect, and then there's the woman that some men say, I'll just go see her once every 3 weeks because apparently whatever she's offering is not worth me truly making a commitment to. And I think that that's the thing when you miscategorize yourself. But I want to ask you all this. What do you think about just, Billboard made Cardi B the woman of the year, not the rapper of the year, not the stripper of the year, woman of the year. That means all women in this room are in that same competition, and Cardi B won. The woman that is being elevated as the model of success. That bothers me, and I'd be curious to ask the audience if you can give me a yes or no in the chat. Yes or no? Do you think that what Cardi B does is good for the image of the Black woman in America? Give me a yes or no in the chat, and then I'm gonna ask the panelists. Give me a yes or no. Maurice, you haven't said much. John, what do you got? I mean, do you think that just all of this is even good in terms of how our women are seen and viewed and treated, by the world?
So I think when we value the validation that we get from those mediums, I think that's the problem. I think the people that give out those awards have an agenda. We have to understand that there is a specific goal that they have in selecting her. So for me personally, I mean, it's not really relevant, right? Because I'm not looking at Billboard as the point of reference for the validation of womanhood, manhood, Blackness, or our culture. So just in terms of that specifically, they do what they do. I mean, there's been other people of the year that when you look at who they select, you understand that there's an agenda, right? So, Cardi B's Woman of the Year, but Dr. Hadia Green, who figured out how to kill cancer cells in mice using laser technology, she's not Woman of the Year, right? So okay, so already you've lost me, and no relation. We're not related, but I wish we were.
It's not a plug.
Not a plug for but Dr. Hadia Green, curing cancer in mice with lasers, like it's groundbreaking. She's not Woman of the Year,
right? Because that's not going to sell copies of a magazine. It's not going to get clicks. I think it's important though to also not say that Cardi B isn't a valuable person. She hasn't done things that, have completely changed her life, even if we don't agree with the messaging of her content. Because I think, we start attacking the person and not, like you said, Maurice, thinking about what Billboard is trying to do by selecting someone like this for that.
This is not an attack.
Well, just to be clear, because I want to say this, no one's attacking anything. I'm not attacking her.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you are. I'm saying that when we think about it.
Yeah, there she goes. There's sister right there.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not devaluing Cardi. I mean, people, they can pick whoever they want. So that, just to be clear, but if I'm looking at Women of the Year, I'm starting here, right? And there are 100 million other women that you can select. So that's my bias. So if I'm picking Woman of the Year, I'm picking her. So that's just my. So she gets my vote. I'm throwing it out. No relation.
It's like recount. It's time for a recount.
Well, that's
Bottom line.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think we should go ahead and vote. Everybody in here. We got the League of Intelligent Black People here. So we're gonna have a quick vote. We're voting for Woman of the Year. Our two candidates are Cardi B, who made her quote was, "I like social justice, but I also like to pop my pussy." I think that was her quote. And then Dr. Hadia Green, who has just
look at John's face.
Groundbreaking technology that allows the curing of cancer in mice with nanotechnology and lasers. Everybody, put your vote in here, either Dr. Green or Cardi B. Let's do the vote. We're gonna tally the votes. All right. Well, Ro, I hope it's okay. If I gotta say it like it is. I didn't want to misquote our sister Cardi B. But you vote for either the WAP or the scientist. Which one do you want? But anyway, so let me ask you this. I'm gonna present a poll. I did a poll of the subscribers on the YouTube channel. And now, mind you, these are black people that are not your typical black people. You know, they tend to be more intelligent, more active as black people, more stronger black identity. But I asked them, I said, does Cardi B's work uplift the image of the black woman in America? And over 1,000 people voted in the last couple of hours. 3% said yes. 97% said no. 97% said no. And it was followed by a lot of really angry comments from black people who said this isn't even a real question. You know, they went down the list basically saying this is ridiculous. They see this as white supremacy, that you're promoting. You're not. It's not that a Cardi B doesn't have a right to exist. The question is, why is that the only thing that's being pushed out there? You know, when Apple Music has 1,000 different artists to choose from, why that and why her? And why is there no? You know, think about this, right? There's no white Cardi B. There is no, like, you know, Miley Cyrus kind of was the white Cardi B, but now she's a girl again, right? But she wasn't as popular as Cardi. Where is the white Cardi B? Where's the white Lizzo? Where's the white Megan Thee Stallion? Is this a role that's specifically preserved for the black woman?
And I think that goes across the media in many ways, where we see often people of color are pigeonholed into different types of roles that are seen as acceptable, and we don't see it in other cultures. So I agree with you there.
So one quick thing that I want to point out, just in terms of music that kind of aligns with what we're talking about. The other thing that just in terms of pigeonholing and our women being highlighted in these particular areas, one of the things I've always presented is whatever happened to R&B. Like we're talking about the music industry, right?
Genre,
if you go back a couple of years, Genuine, Tank, Boys to Men, black men singing about love, marriage, relationships, family. Like I can name off the top of my head right now 15 black men that sung about love, family, marriage, children. And if you find me now, because I actually ran into the R&B singer Joe a couple of years ago, and I asked him, I said, man, what happened? Like, where are you guys? And he said, the music business doesn't want that anymore.
Absolutely.
And so
when hip hop went pop,
the people.
Wait, so I'm saying,
Wait,
so I'm saying now, if you want to talk about music, because we're musical people, we're the people of the drum. Let's be honest about it. The music industry has eliminated black men singing about love, about let's get married. Like, I mean, and it's gone. And if you want to find, and if someone says R&B doesn't sell, that's not true, because you know what? What's the name? Adele sells 1 trillion, records, whatever. So now the love songs, men singing about love, that's pop, that's country. Like suddenly we don't love our black women. Suddenly we're not singing about marriage. Suddenly we're not singing about family. But if I want to talk about Percocets, violence, right? Sex, right? Dysfunction, these record labels have $1 billion to put behind my name. So the reason why I'm pointing that out is because I think that we all, men, women, we all should be able to be critical of whoever the media is using to promote things to our people, to our children, right? And so if what's his name, or Snoop says, hey, I don't like this, now he's the wrong messenger. We get that.
No, he can say what he wants, but you should also be critical about other things as well. That's bring it up in its totality. Don't just target women.
Wait. But see, the problem that I have with that, let me just go down this street real quickly. I've been listening to people complain about black men rapping about violence, Percocet, sex, my whole life. So I don't know why all of a sudden people are saying that this is a double standard, because every time I turn around, we're complaining about.
But what we're talking about here in terms of the intro.
Can I finish, please? Can I finish, please? We're talking about Future rapping about Percocets, but he don't use them. We're talking about people about, I got a gun, leave them leaking in the street. Black men are saying, yo, that's not cool. And it's not a few of us. Most black people are not cool with this hip hop as it's being presented. Now, of course, we had DMX, but we had Common, right? There was a diversity. But now there is no diversity, and we've been complaining about that for years. So I want to push back on that narrative that we're not talking about black men rapping about guns, violence, and hypersexuality, because we absolutely are.
That's not what I said. What I was referring to go ahead, John. I'll let you speak because I know you have.
Oh no, I was just gonna say agree that black men have been talking about that, but we've been silenced. Because I know every time I talk, there's somebody, man, well, just let them do it, just let them do it. Whether it comes to men or women who are talking about negative stuff, so you're constantly being silenced. Oh man, you lame, you ain't. Just let these folks say whatever they want to say. So now you fast forward, now here we are to where everybody's talking about whatever, and most of the whatever is what white media wants to market, and it's negative. So it's all negative now.
Absolutely.
Right? Destructive.
And I just want to make it clear, the anecdote that we used to get into this conversation was about Snoop talking about women, right? Or this specific woman or these two women. And so let's not say something true that's not what I said. I said that the issue here was that you have an OG like Snoop seemingly just targeting women. Where is the commentary about all the terrible things that black men who are topping the charts saying? You're only talking about these two women. I did not say that men can't critique women at all. I didn't say that black men.
The commentary has been consistent for decades. Right. I agree
from someone in his
the
seat
commentary
is what I'm saying.
has been consistent.
For someone in his I'm not talking about all black men. We were talking
but
about.
I've heard a lot of people say black men cannot have no right to critique.
Yeah, that did come out though. That did come out that
they said that like stay out of women's business. And I'm just asking.
Yeah, and I didn't concur with that. I never said. Rose said I said something like that. You're saying I never said that.
Okay. So we all agree. Hold on. So we all agree that men are allowed to critique women, right? So we're there, right? It sounds like we're there. All right. Okay. And right. So here's the thing, right? We know all the music is a bunch of BS. We know, well, not all of it, but a lot of it is not healthy. A lot of it's not good. And what's interesting to me is it really makes me sad when a female rapper would do something ratchet, and as a man, I'll be like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would I want my children listening to that? And then someone will come and say, well, the men do this too. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so you're justified in doing whatever you want to do because some ignorant person, some ignorant dude is doing something ridiculous. So you're racing to the bottom. You're racing. If men can be terrible, we can be terrible too. Maybe how about this? How about black people just stop being terrible and stop supporting terrible shit? Excuse my French. I don't know. What do y'all think? Maybe we can agree on that.
There needs to be a council. There needs to be a council. There needs to be a group of us who takes the position and where we say, no, we don't approve of this. We don't approve of that. They have that in every single nation on earth. Are you all aware that there's a council in every nation on earth that decides what books go in, what films go in, what things are approved and what things are not? So in our community, we let everybody else decide for us. And then we say, no judging, no shunning, no this and no that. There needs to be a council. We should be able to say, we choose ourselves and we have decided that we don't approve of that officially. You know, I like that a lot. I want to say is there are very small children. We have children aged 4 to 16. We have 4 children. And because of our children, we're exposed to a lot of children. Believe me, there are very tiny children, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, singing wet a okay? And they're getting it, they're attaching themselves to it very easily because the video looks like Sesame Street.
Yeah, it's very catchy.
Wow.
You cannot try to pretend that this is not pushed down the throats of children. We can say and pretend that although we have the discernment to say that we don't like these things and we don't like this type of music and we don't actually accept this behavior, I promise you, the 7-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, the 12-year-olds, they believe it 100%.
Yeah, well, you know, I heard about Megan Thee Stallion from a 12-year-old because she goes to school and all her friends knew the Megan Thee Stallion lyrics. So I just looked it up because they were all talking about it. I pay attention to what the kids are talking about just so I can know what's happening. And it's really fascinating. If you go on apps like TikTok, which draw lots of children, you will see adult entertainers doing adult stuff. Like Lizzo was doing something pretty racy. Something that belongs in the bedroom of adults, and there are 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds watching this,
and that's also on Instagram too.
And when other people's children, when that don't look like us, when they see images of us being ratchet, it does not affect them like it's them. Our children are the ones going, she looks like me.
Wow. Okay, so you know what? So we've gone for about an hour. So what I want to do, first of all, I want to tell everybody that we are doing our All Black Intellectual Chocolate panel. We do this pretty much every night at 8 p.m. Eastern on drvoicetv.com. So make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, hit the notification bell. We're building Black media, so we really need your help because we have to have our own voices. We have to have our own experts. And tonight I am so blessed and so honored to have our panel tonight. To have an intelligent conversation. Give me a yes or no if you agree that this is not a conversation you're going to see on TV. Don Lemon's not going to have this panel. They're not going to do this. This is not a panel that you're going to see in media, but this is a panel that we need to see. This is what we need to connect to so we can really figure out who we are without letting others tell us who we are. So I'll mention the names of my guests, and then what I'm going to do is ask each of the panelists to make kind of a final statement, maybe about 90 seconds, kind of lay it down, the walk-away points, right? Because we can talk about the silly stuff, but I love you guys because you're smart and you elevate the conversation so that we can all walk away better. Because it's not about Cardi B, it's not about Snoop, it's not about WAP, it's not about Offset, it's not about none of that. It's really about you. It's about us as a people. That's what matters. So hit the thumbs up button, and I'm mentioning Tia Brown. Tia Brown is a licensed therapist. A very smart Black woman. I've known Tia for 13 years. She doesn't talk much about it, but she was a big boss over at Ebony Magazine for a while. And I'll let her decide how much she wants to tell, but you'll be back pretty soon, so you can talk about that. Jeff Lighty Jr. is a frequent contributor on the blackbosschannel.com. And he is little Stephen A. Smith. That's what I call him. But he's not little. He's a grown man. But Rose said he won't be a grown man until he's 35. So Jeff is my man. And also Dr. Maurice Green, who runs the Black Doctoral Network. I think arguably the largest organization for Black doctorates and doctoral students in the country. It's an amazing group. Everybody should join that. Also, we have John F. Thomas, who's an award-winning writer and director out of LA. His podcast is called The JT Effect. His award-winning film was called Emoticall, correct? And also we have Ro Guangenwa. Please tell me I got it right.
No.
Is it good?
No.
I'm going to keep
trying. Say it again.
Say it for me, Ro.
Grand Chinois.
Did I say it right? Grand Chinois? Ro Grand Chinois.
No.
What?
You are butchering her name. It's terrible. Let her say it.
C'est juste comme Grand Chinois parce que le R c'est complètement différent comme anglais.
And she knows I failed French class. So she's just messing with me now. Now you're making fun of my disability. So I'm gonna move on here. But
wait a minute.
Her website is her website is Black Wealth U, and she runs the Wife School, and she's a very smart lady with great opinions. I'm glad you're here as well. So starting with Miss Tia Brown, give us something that we can walk away with. Give us some intellectual chocolate, some food for thought that can make us better people until we meet again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. for the next panel. What are your thoughts, Tia?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway here is that, yes, we have the right to be critical of the content that we consume. We should exercise that wholly, but make sure that we are doing it across the board. I think another main point here is that the things that we find value in and that we find valuable will evolve and change as we get older. So we do need to be mindful of the things that we think are great, when we're 20 and 30 and that we're exposing people to, because we may not find the same value in that content as we get older. And most important, as a community, we do need to support our own platforms, support our artists, but support artists that we think create content that uplift our community, because that's been the consistent thing here, that there's no diversity, there's no variety, and the content that we know will really uplift us, and not just financially, but spiritually, emotionally, how we relate to each other, is not going to be pushed to the forefront by companies that aren't owned by us. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we are finding ways to support them financially.
Awesome. Okay, Jeff Lassie Jr., your parting thoughts.
The biggest thing I think I want to take away is, like you said, you can be critical of certain styles of music, certain parts of our culture, but the biggest thing for us is that we have to work on ourselves, and that way we make sure our house is in order. So if things that you don't find acceptable, whether that's Cardi B's talking about WAP or Offset talking about misogyny or Future Percocets, whatever, like, you take care of your in-house, and I think that will translate throughout. And if everybody takes care of their own, their self, their family, what's taking place with them, I think you are setting your foundation up for the future. And that way, even if you hear music or, parts of, white supremacy trying to rein in on what you have going on, it's almost like a shield, a force field to block all that stuff out.
Okay. Dr. Maurice Green, your parting thoughts, brother.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to you for this platform, for this opportunity to share with other brilliant people things that the audience would not otherwise hear. I would just like to say very simply, if you don't hear it anywhere else, Black men love Black women. Right, that narrative that we don't love you, that we don't care, that we're all misogynist, that we're not sensitive to the needs of our families, that is a disingenuous statement, belief system that's perpetuated by the media. And if I was leaving you with one parting thought, is that we're going to win in the end if we work together, as long as we continue to love each other, care about each other, and don't participate in this cancel culture where you hear something that you might disagree with, and the naysayers might say, oh, shut that person down because they said something that I don't want to hear. That's the way they keep us from working together. That's the way they keep us from talking, to communicating, building legacies together. So I just want to say once again, thank you for this opportunity. We'll be here again. We love you out there. Just continue to support this channel and support this network, and we're going to continue to bring you great content. Be well.
All right. And so John F. Thomas, your parting thoughts.
I would say that we ingest a lot of negative things through media, and just like Ro was saying, we're allowing a lot of other people to dictate and tell us what and who we are, and we don't have any control over ourselves, but we can get that control back. Because if you think about it like this, how many other races that I know of, that I have talked to and spoken to, call themselves by the most extreme derogatory names? For instance, we do. We call ourselves the N-words. We call our women bees, especially those in music, and our own women call themselves bees. So you think about it, we are feeding ourselves these negative things, and our children are seeing that. So we have to really make this change, because we know what they're doing, and we can keep blaming them all day, but we have to fight back and start doing that inner work ourselves. So lastly, I say, think about it like this. If you are trying to get a plant to grow, would you feed it Gatorade? Would you feed it Coca-Cola? Would you feed it liquor? Would you feed it Minute Maid fruit punch? No, you wouldn't feed it that. So if you wouldn't feed it that, you would feed it water, because that plant needs water. It needs something positive. If you, a person, or if I'm calling myself the N-word, if I'm calling myself a B, I am negatively feeding myself that, and subconsciously, I think that about myself. I believe that. No matter what anybody else says, I can't get respect if I believe that. So we have to start calling ourselves more kings and queens and more positive things, not these N-words and B-words. So feed yourself positively, water yourself, for real.
Well, that's real interesting. That takes you back to that takes you to that Frances Cress Welsing quote. I'm gonna try to find it actually, because you remember where she was basically saying that you can't call yourself these terrible things every single day and then expect that your people are going to rise, because every day your words are pushing yourself back into the mud. So Miss Rowe, from the Wife School or Black Wealth U, what are your final thoughts?
Well, I think that we need to remember that there is no way to prove that we are not still slaves in America. If you ask yourself deeply and strongly, how you can be sure that you're not a slave in America, nobody can answer us. Okay. Almost no Black Americans use a passport to go back across the Atlantic Ocean. I'm not ever going to stop saying this. I'm not ever going to stop reminding you all that we have a focusing problem. We have never left the American ignorance bubble. We are recycling our ignorance and we think it's normal because we don't have views across the ocean. We go to the Caribbean, we go to other places in the American continent, and we literally have a phobia of crossing back over the Atlantic Ocean. We have lost our minds. We don't know who we are, and we need to be serious. So contact us if you're interested in creating an African Judgment Council where we can say we approve or we don't approve. And if our stamp is not on it, parents can start looking at us as parents that they needed, because we need to remember almost all the parents of today didn't have parents.
Wow. Well, let me actually let me go ahead and bring in an ancestor into this conversation who has something to say on this. Her name is Frances Cress Welsing. I mentioned her quote that I was looking for, and remember, she says, "We wonder why we're not making progress. I can't call myself a B, a hoe, a gangster, and thug every day, and then get up and do something constructive. That's impossible." And so I want everybody to kind of meditate on that point. And I want us to kind of look around and look at what we're consuming in terms of entertainment and what we're allowing other people to tell us about ourselves. And, and in my final thought that I'd like to share before we bounce out of here, I want everybody to kind of realize that, we should be of the world to a point to understand what's going on with our people. But these conversations are not designed to swim down in the mud. We might dip in the mud so we can lift some people out. And we know we can't lift everybody out. We don't have the strength to lift everybody out, but we're going to lift those out who want to be lifted out if we can assist you in that way. The reason that it's important to have Black voices and to build Black media and for all of us to have these conversations is because we need to go back to who we were. Like Rose says, who you are does not live in the hood. Who you are does not live in hip hop music. Who you are does not live on TV. Who you are does not live in your favorite hip hop music video. Who you are is, maybe in Africa. Maybe who you are is pre-integration, right? Who you are is maybe ancient Egypt, right? Who you are is something far greater than what they made you think that you are, right? And so what I want to encourage everybody to do, whatever you walk away with in this conversation, I want to encourage you to elevate. Everybody, the word for today is elevate. Type elevate in the chat if you get what I'm saying. We're going to walk out of here. We're going to elevate. And we're gonna go out. We're gonna be some uppity Negroes if we have to be, whatever it takes. Just let the world know, like, this is not acceptable. This is not who we are. You're not gonna misrepresent our image. We're gonna stand up for ourselves, and we're gonna tell you about yourself if you try to get out of line with this nonsense. So before I go, speaking of elevating, we are doing a Black movie night. It's totally free. You can go to blackmovienight.net, and we're going to show a film by a Black filmmaker by the name of Mark Harris. The film is called Stock Option. Mark Harris is a great filmmaker. You've seen his films on BET, VH1, stuff like that. I love Mark because Mark elevates in the sense that Mark was invited to go to Hollywood. He chose not to go. Mark actually he's made great movies. His movies are very positive and uplifting. They're all about Black love, Black family, the beauty of Black women. You're going to walk away from watching this movie feeling very, very good. You're not going to be re-traumatized. So come join us. A Black movie night is next Thursday. You can go to blackmovienight.net. And also at Black Movie Night, there's another screening happening on the 26th because we're building a Black-owned film industry. Now, I was in this film. This film is called Happy, Hapi. Happy. It was done by Taki Grant. It took him 5 years to do it. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own money. I saw the brother struggling to make this movie, and he got it done. It is super high quality. And what he does is he shows how modern economic systems all have their roots going back to ancient Africa, ancient Egypt, West Africa. He traveled to all these places and shot some amazing stuff. And it's an amazing film. You're going to love it. So go to blackmovienight.net to check it out. So I want to say thank you very much to the panelists. I appreciate all your time. I hope you guys I hope we didn't traumatize each other so much we won't come back. I hope so. I'm trying to do this. I'm not good at this interview thing, but I'm trying my best. And I appreciate you all for believing me despite all my flaws. And I love you guys. And also everybody watching, thank you all for listening. We do this pretty much every night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, get on our list so we can let you know when we're doing these panels. And you guys have a good night. So we'll see you soon. Take care and talk to you.